Wrestling with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world emotions crash.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wrestling with Emotions. I'm your host, Rob, whatever you want to call me, and we are back for another week. Last time we checked in was, I think, last Friday. I was heading up to BigEvent New York. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I want to definitely get into the week that was in wrestling, kind of talk about a few of the shows for WWE, obviously, and then we'll recap AEW just a little bit and talk about the road to Wrestlemania. We're only 4 weeks away now, which is pretty crazy. But also excited. It's one of my favorite times. It's one of my favorite times in the year. There's always good stories. Things start to and the day after Wrestlemania, the Monday Night Raw after Wrestlemania is usually really good. So we'll see. But back to where I was talking about. I went to BigEvent New York, and if you didn't catch the last episode, BigEvent New York is essentially just a large autograph signing expo. They do partnerships with different organizations, and they have sponsorships with different talent. For example, I know they have, like, The Big Show is signed, or Paul White. Carmella is now signed with them. Sonya Deville, I don't know their real names. Eva Marie, all signed with BigEvent. And then they'll bring in other stars as well from different promotions and things like that. So it was a really good time. It was up on Long Island at the Suffolk Credit Union Arena in Brentwood, New York. It's part of a college. It was like an indoor track inside. Not bad. Pretty cool. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised when I walked in to see that a lot of vendors were actually set up for selling new and old merchandise, relics, old action figures too, like Hasbro's. There was one guy's booth in particular that was stacked that I was super interested in. And maybe I just don't know the market for some of these things. I know I do check eBay prices because I am in the market for two Hasbro, specifically a Bret Hart. It doesn't have to be the most expensive one, but I am a snob that it is a US card, and then the Ultimate Warrior Series 2. And I'd like that to be a US card too. So they had Ultimate Warrior Series 1 for $500. This guy's booth was stacked with old stuff from Hasbro. He had the Tonka wrestling buddies, a few Hogans, Macho Man. I have an Ultimate Warrior one that I got for probably like $70 on eBay, cleaned it up, washed it. And then he was charging $200 for each one of those. Now, let me just do a quick eBay search and see if that's even close to the market for some of these. And it wasn't in bad shape. So there's a pre-owned one right now, or best offer, for $105. It doesn't look bad. There's one for $60. Let me take a look at this one. It's a little dirty. That's fucking gross. How much is this one? You got to be careful with obviously some of this too. Do check the pictures if you're going to buy it. This one's not that bad. Let me actually highlight this one, because I'd love to have Warrior, and then maybe a Macho Man. The one I had as a kid, I don't even remember how I got it. If we got it brand new at a store or something, but I had a Jake the Snake. One as a kid that I would wrestle around with and drop the elbow off on my bed. But anyways, they had those booths, so that was pretty cool. Now, if you've never gone to a autograph signing, whether it's wrestling, I also go up to Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Oh, there's another Ultimate Warrior for $74. This is pretty good and it's in pretty decent shape. Sorry. If you don't go, let me actually highlight this one too. If you don't go to autograph signings, I also go to a lot of the Monster Manias up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is not too bad of a drive. A couple of pieces of advice. So regardless, it seems, of the convention that you go to, I do try to get and pick up the early admission. Now, for the one that I went to on Friday or Saturday, um, that meant instead of going at 10 o'clock, you can get in at 9:30. Now, I don't know what it is with these events and these signings, but every time I pay for um, early admission, it's you never get in on time, or they don't even start to queue the line at the time that's advertised. So we actually started moving the line at like 9:45 in the morning, which is annoying because the difference in ticket price was not that much. I'm not going to say like I blew it out the water just to get the early admission. It's only like by $5, but it's still annoying to have that type of they're very inefficient. It seems like all the time at these signings, and then even more so when you get inside. Typically, it's very difficult to understand like where to go as far as like which line you're supposed to get in. This one was unique in terms of like so for most of the talent, if not all, except for some of the smaller booths that weren't there, but the big headline guests, you had to check in first at a table, pick up your ticket specific for whatever you had ordered or pre-ordered, or pay there live for admission into what you were looking for, and then you get back in line. So for me, I only actually purchased the VIP pass for one person, and that was Lita, and that's 3 autographs and a picture, and then you get front of the line access. If you were going to go to any of these signings, especially now that they are continuing to get more popular all the time, and they're bringing in a lot of really serious talent for a lot of these too. Like this is the first time that I'd ever seen AJ Lee advertised for anything. You had Bret Hart, you had Ric Flair, of course. I'm trying to think, there were some others there too from a big name. You had Mercedes Moné, another huge name. Their lines were incredible. So I made the decision, okay, I've got the VIP. I bought one pass for an autograph for Bret Hart. And then I knew the AJ line was going to be the longest. Gotten that first. And I'm stoked because I'm like number 10 in line. And then it turns out she's going to be another hour because she's taking photos, which is fine. So I was like, okay, well, I'll stay in this line because I know it's going to get stacked. And it did. It started to wrap it around the entire building and the track that they had built in there. So long story short, I skipped a couple of people that I was going to be waiting for because I didn't have the VIP and the lines were atrocious. So waited probably almost 2 hours to finally just get a one figure sign from AJ. And then I went and used my VIP to get in line with Lita. Got a couple of things signed and then kind of walked the track a little bit, had a couple other different signings and some smaller things. And that was it. And then I headed home, 5.5 hour drive back. And then that was it for the weekend. So all in all, every time I go to one of these, regardless of whether it's wrestling related or horror related, I always say I don't think I'm going to go back to another one. But then they'll sucker me in. I'm looking forward to another one. I think there's one in August, which Ali Soraya is going to be at for Monster Mania up in Cherry Hill. So I will probably go to that one, and those are usually fun too because it's obviously a different crowd. Just like a wrestling crowd, though, everybody is always wearing fucking black. So, anyways, and if you looked at Brooke Adams's Instagram, you will see me on there. I was wearing her shirt, so she got a picture of that, and that was fun. But let's get into the week that was. So, John Cena is live. We'll start off with Raw for the week. John Cena comes out on Monday. And if we're in Belgium at this particular point, the European tour is well underway. Obviously, all the shows this week were in Europe. And, this goes without saying, and it's not anything new or something no one's ever talked about before. The European crowds, man, they show up and they show out every single time. They know how to have a really great time. Even in segments that they don't care for, they find ways to entertain themselves, different chants, different cheers. It's really a fun program to watch. It keeps you totally engaged, even on some of the matches that you really don't care about. And I'll talk about this too. I'm only going to hit some of the quick hits on some of these things because there's a lot of filler in between that I really just don't care about. You probably have already seen some of the clips online, but obviously John Cena comes out for the first time to speak after his heel turn on Cody back at Elimination Chamber a couple of weeks back. Cuts a scathing promo basically saying that no one's ever done anything from him, and his time is now. He destroys um he destroys anybody in the crowd, even that's wearing his shirts and stuff like that. You dress like me, I don't dress like you. But he crushes this kid, and there's video online of this poor kid, like seconds before he just gets owned. He yells out, "I love you," to to John Cena. And I think either they edited it this way or it actually happened, but he points directly at the kid and said, like, this kid is worst of all. And just the change in expression on the poor kid's face, it was hilarious. I wonder if the kid was a plant, because I mean, the number one, if the kid was acting, he was doing a great job, because his face and demeanor completely changed throughout that entire conversation. So that was interesting to see. And really, that's the highlight. Cody comes out very briefly. There's no physical altercation or anything of that sort. And it's just a typical Cody promo, basically. I want the guy on the shirt versus, the guy who's in front of me now. Nothing to write home about. No mention of The Rock and how he'll be obviously involved. But we are moving forward, and hopefully, as I mentioned to start out, we're 4 weeks away from WrestleMania at this particular point. And hopefully, and I'll talk about this on SmackDown too, hopefully we're at a point where every guy and gal who's going to be in these matches, long story short, hopefully all the part-timers who are going to be in some of these matches will be there every single week for the next 4 weeks to kind of keep these stories going and keep things interesting. Because outside of that, there's a lot of filler, and they just continuously seem to be running back the same matches almost every single week. For example, Penta against Ludwig Kaiser again. Dakota Kai, Ivy Nile again. Jey Uso against Austin Theory. And what is that other idiot? Grayson Waller. He's trash. But who cares? No one cares. The only other good segment to come out of this, and I'm not even going to count the Cody promo, the Seth Rollins promo, because nothing was actually said, was you have the contract signing, and this is what's confusing, right? You have a contract signing between Io Sky and Bianca Belair for the WrestleMania title showdown. And then obviously Rhea, if you haven't seen, Rhea interferes, signs her name on the document, adding her name to be basically in another 3-way match. So it looks like that's inevitably we're going to get there. My thing is, why? This is lazy writing and a quick fix to kind of just shoehorn her into this match. Why are you even doing a contract signing when specifically Bianca winning the Elimination Chamber guaranteed her opportunity to face Io for the title? You don't need to do a contract signing. So, and, I think Bianca's really starting to come into her own. I think she's always been obviously better as a single star. I think she was really just kind of there to help promote and push up Jade Cargill, who, I don't know. Unpopular opinion, I think she was way better when she was in ECW. Good Lord. When she was in AEW. I think they did a way better job of showcasing her talent. Yes, does she have a cooler entrance here? Probably. Does she have better production yes, of course. But her matches are still terrible. She's still like a 3-move, trick pony. She's obviously strong. We all get that. But she's not, outside of that, she is not interesting. I'm sorry. I think she was way more interesting in AEW for what it's worth, but it doesn't matter. But obviously her and Naomi are on a collision course. But Bianca, back to Bianca. I think she's doing some of her best work right now. And, my biggest thing with some of these women, and even some of the men, obviously, from a promo standpoint, I think I talked about this in terms of like what helped get me back into wrestling with CM Punk, the authenticity of the promo work. A lot of these folks, and especially I've listened to Bianca, I've listened to Trinity, who's been doing this a long time as well. Everything just sounds so scripted, like they're reading from a script. And I think it exposes some people very quickly with some people who can't hang. And unfortunately, I think that happened last night too with Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. But anyways, I think Bianca's doing some of her best work. And I think some of the back and forth is even extended into social media. And I think it's been fun and funny to read. And Bianca does absolutely have a point. You didn't win the Royal Rumble. You did not win you did not win the Elimination Chamber. Yet you still get a title shot because you're Rhea Ripley. And I have nothing against Rhea Ripley. I think she's terrific, and I know she's a fan favorite. And this match has to happen this way, I think, to kind of get her in. Unless you can kind of figure out a way to give her a new program, but with 4 weeks away, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So here we are. So that was really a Monday night. I'll save AEW for last, just to kind of stay consistent with WWE. So last night we have, as promised, we'll end the show with Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth all standing in the ring at the very end. This is the match I was mentioning in terms of. Here's my problem. This is why it's called Wrestling with Emotions, because I'm trying not to get extremely pissed off here. You have... How many matches do you got here? You've got 3... I don't know. There seems to be more matches than... I was going to say there's only 3 matches. I'm looking through the highlights, but... Anyways... You've got Jade. I'm not even going to go through some of these. Your opening segment basically features Randy Orton with a showdown with Kevin. Not really a showdown. But Owens comes out, sets the stage for WrestleMania. I think that's announced now. I think that's good to go. What else you got? You got a couple of matches. Liv Morgan, Jade. I just mentioned that again. Kind of sleepers. Los Garzas versus Street Profits. Snoozer. And then really the ending of the show is really what you want to talk about, what you want to hear. So we've got these guys. Obviously they're talked about all night. It's a 3-hour program. You have minimal matches, incredibly long commercials. Roman Reigns kicks things off. And again, I mentioned the crowds. We're in Italy now. And the reception, I mean, it even from just watching it, and the crowd was so awesome during his entrance, singing along, singing their own song. I couldn't even make out what they were saying, but super engaged. Just gave him just a tremendous welcoming. He cuts a promo on Punk, basically screwing him at the Royal Rumble, etc. And then, of course, Seth comes out next. Says basically their histories have always been intertwined. Of course, it was always going to come down to those two guys. And then CM Punk comes out. Good, pretty quick promo. We finally get a little bit of a hint that they're going to start to talk about him cashing in that favor from back at War Games. We never actually get the words as to what that means. We'll speculate here in a moment. But overall, it was a relatively short, quick segment. They obviously had to rush. Most of the segment was entrances. Very few words, and just a little bit of, I guess, weirdness between Roman and Paul Heyman, as Punk alludes to thank you for setting him up on a silver platter for me. So kind of planting those seeds of doubt in Roman's head as to whom he will be in whose corner, for the WrestleMania. And of course, after it goes off the air, Triple H already tweets out that it will be those 3 guys going toe to toe in a 3-way battle, and probably in one of the main events, probably night 1. I will speculate. Because my thought process is the cash-in favor, and I think a lot of people have already said this, but is the cash-in favor going to be Punk basically saying that if he wins that match, he wants to be in the main event versus John Cena and Cody Rhodes? So we shall see, but it is good to start to finally see some of these pieces coming together. And like I said, I'm just hope that from a momentum standpoint that they continue to have these guys on the program every single week, because it does certainly help with the build when everybody is available and everybody's there. And you can see there is definitely a difference, love him or hate him, when Roman is in the building versus when he's not. There is now, they've done an awesome job of just creating an amazing aura around him, and it's very, very cool to see. So let's fast forward over to Dynamite, or backtrack to Wednesday night. We've got Dynamite. We are live this time from Omaha, Nebraska, and we've got a pretty decent card. I think I don't really fall into the rating stuff, but I think this is one of the higher viewed Dynamites of the year. You've got a few championship matches. You've got we'll talk really quickly about Mercedes Moné. She puts her TBS championship on the line against the first Ring of Honor Women's World TV Champion, Billy Starks. So that match, as you might expect, goes to Mercedes Moné. Again, I talked about this last week, and I thought when they were cutting a promo backstage, that they would finally foreshadow something good. Maybe it's Mariah May, maybe it's somebody interesting, but she needs an opponent that creates a sense of wonder as to whether or not she could lose or not. Because unless it's like a wild surprise and someone was to take the belt off of her in just like a fluke match, there's nobody there right now that they've programmed her against that has been a suitable opponent to make you even think that they're a viable threat to win the match. So it's not, again, like she's terrific. She shows up, she does a terrific job. I think she represents the company well. She represents the women well. Always puts on good matches, obviously very professional, and she's traveling everywhere and defending. So it's not like she's hiding at all. But it would be more interesting, obviously, if she's involved in a program that's worthy of her reputation. And we have All In July, so hopefully they do something to kind of build towards that. And I really hope that it's not just the same old stuff that we've come to see and expect. So that match ends, and then we finally, from a placement standpoint, we get in the middle of this also, we get, it might have even kicked things off, but Speedball Mike Bailey, Orange Cassidy, and Ricochet in a 3-way battle. It ends in an interesting cover as Mike Bailey pins Orange Cassidy, but Ricochet's like on his back at the same time, so they count a double victory for both those guys. So Ricochet and Speedball Mike Bailey will both face Kenny Omega at Dynasty. It'll be an interesting match, but again, just a sloppy segue to kind of make that happen. I don't know why we need to have a 3-way match for that, but I guess it will be interesting to see those 3 guys work together, because obviously they all do very, very good work. And then the one that everybody's talking about is in the middle of the program. You've got Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland in a street fight for the AEW World Championship. Mox cuts a promo on the outside, and immediately it starts the match and enters the building. There's, of course, your usual bullshit Death Rider interference with Marina Shafir. Kip Sabian joins the match. Wheeler Boring Yuta gets involved. I think Claudio is even involved at one point too. FTR comes out. We'll talk a little bit more about them, because that kind of foreshadows maybe what's next for Edge or Adam Copeland. Long story short, Mox defeats Copeland by knockout to retain the championship. Better match for sure, I think, than the one that they had just a week ago. And as I mentioned, it kind of sets the stage too. At the very end of the match, everybody's kind of cleared. Edge is down. Hardwood, he reaches out his hand for Dax to basically help pick him up. and Dax just basically walks out of the ring. So it looks like there's going to be beef there. But that remains to be seen. But the one thing that everybody's obviously talking about here, there is a brutal shot in this match, or a brutal spot. If you're not familiar, Edge has this bat that he calls Spike. It's just a bat full of it's just a wildly, caveman style bat with a ton of nails in it. That is set up in the middle of the ring, and he suplexes Mox onto the back there. And I have been critical of Mox in terms of like he is super one-dimensional. I feel a lot of his matches all seem very cookie cutter. He's great on the mic, obviously. I think he cuts a really good promo, but his match work is always really basically the same kind of stuff. And the finishes to these matches are all the same. It's always fucking interference. Even in a match where there's not supposed to be any interference, there's interference. Case in point, last week in the final match, Wheeler Yuta comes out after Copeland has defeated and supposedly gotten rid of everybody in his crew. He still manages to come out and interfere in that match. Makes no sense. But hopefully we're moving on to bigger and better things. But as I was saying, there's a suplex onto the bat, and it is wildly stuck into his back. And like I said, I've been critical of him, but man, he will lay it all on the line for any match that he's in. This is a Wednesday night program, and the bat, I mean, just how the nail is like, stuck. They're trying to pull it out. The ref has to assist because he's got gloves. Just gross. I mean, I don't think it's over the top. I mean, it's fine. I think they've done worse things, like some things that I've never been a fan of, like a lot of the blood spots I can honestly do without, unless it lends well to a story or a match. If it's a hardcore match, then I expect there's going to be some color in it. But if it's just a regular match, and that was always like the criticism, and one of the funnier lines that Punk had too when he was going against Moxley, he was like, I would touch you, but I'm afraid you bleed all over me. Because every single match, regardless of the circumstance, he was finding a way to blade himself and bleed in a match for some reason or another. So in these types of matches, I would expect there to be a little bit of gore. The worst one that I've seen that I was not cool with, or that I thought was gross. I mean, I don't care about it. When I say not cool with it, I just mean it was gross. Was like when anybody does like a blood drinking type thing or tasting, like when over the weekend before the cage match with Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, where they both do, the licking of their hands for the blood and stuff like that. To me, I mean, it's just gross. And the worst, of course, being Hangman and Swerve Strickland. I mean, from probably a year ago at this point, but just disgusting. But that's where we are. So, we're on the road. We've now got some matches announced. Obviously, we know who the International Championship match is going to be. We've got Swerve versus Mox for the championship match as well. In that to round that out. And then of course we'll obviously see probably more matches announced starting this week. And see who else might pop up. But outside of that, not a ton to report this week. Just advancements in the storylines, things moving forward for both companies. I think, overall, obviously, I think the AEW, the Dynamite show was a better program overall from a wrestling standpoint. I think they're able to get a lot of really quality matches in, weave in some story and some backstage stuff, and I think they really set the table for kind of what's next. And then, of course, I'm skipping and burying the lead here. We end the show with what's her name? Megan Bayne against Chris Statlander. Where do I want to go with this? Number one, anytime Toni Storm is on commentary in this persona, it's hilarious. She is terrific. The segment overall was probably an A. She joined commentary. Lots of funny jokes and stuff from her. This eventually spills to the outside where Bane throws Statlander into Tony Storm. Bane picks up the win, basically her version of the F5. I forget what they call it. The Megasis. The Megasis. Maybe that's what they call her. I don't know. But it ends with the two, with Bane and Tony Storm in the ring. Tony cuts a promo on her. And we have a match set for Dynasty as well, as she'll defend her title against Megan Bane. I'm excited for it. I think it's new, it's different. Megan's obviously a top talent from a challenge standpoint. So this should be fun and interesting to see what they do here, whether it's a segue for something bigger for Tony to move on to. Because I think maybe we'll do another episode. I've talked about this before, but I definitely really want to dig into the women's division in AEW and see where are we missing? Where are we lacking in terms of storytelling? Because I've talked about this before. I think their women's division is excellent. Their roster is top to bottom incredibly, for lack of a better term, stacked. You've got, of course, Tony, Mercedes Moné. Maybe we talk a little bit about it right now. We're only at 30 minutes in, but let me scroll here. So you've got, let me just talk about some of the top names here and how I think they're underutilized right now. Number one, coming out of Grand Slam, Harley Cameron's probably red hot right now, white hot. I think she's going to be on Dynamite, or what's it called? Collision tonight, following the NCAA tournament in a segment. You've still got Anna Jay. You've still got Athena. You still have Britt Baker, who hasn't been seen. You have Deonna Purrazzo. She's at least featured on TV, but still, I believe, underutilized. Jamie Hayter has been back, complete underutilized. Get her in the main event scene, man. Get her back in the main event scene. And then maybe if Harley's not going to be a singles competitor, let's tag her up with somebody. Let's find somebody suitable to work with her as she's continuing to grow. Because I think from that standpoint, there's obviously no real solid women tag teams. So that would be interesting to see. You've got Julia Hart, who's slowly been coming back. She's been featured more on television. She's going against Queen Aminata, who I think is incredibly boring. She does this hand gesture with the one. She's incredibly boring. Hopefully that is done, because Julia Hart deserves better. Camille is still on their roster page. We haven't seen her since she walked off the air with Mercedes. And she hasn't been very vocal about her status and if she's still even with the company. I know she was obviously filming parts of Queen of the Ring, but she hasn't been seen on TV in some time. But hopefully she reappears, because, she was like basically there for a cup of coffee and we haven't seen her in a while. Chris Statlander, they continue to push this woman, and it's not that she's bad, but I'm just like, man, is there anybody else that we can start to kind of give another shot to? Layla Gray, I think she's starting to really flourish more so on the Ring of Honor side. Of course, you have Mariah May. She's probably just taken a little bit of a hiatus between that break and being the champion recently. And she'll probably be back, I imagine, by All In July as part of some type of program, hopefully. And again, this is the thing. These programs don't always have to be centered around a title picture. But let's have these women featured a little bit more on television. I'm super glad to see Penelope Ford more and more every single week. She's obviously been in Megan Bane's corner for a lot of these matches, and she's wrestled a lot herself, doing jobs for different people. I'd love to see her get some type of run as well. I'm looking through the roster. Rebel is still, for some reason, on the women's roster. I haven't seen her in a couple of years, it feels like. Sky Blue should be returning pretty soon, I would imagine. I think she's on the mend, and if she hasn't already been back on TV, she should probably be shortly. And then you have Saraya, who obviously made headlines this week, indicating obviously that she knows she's personally at the tail end of her career, and she's made it very clear that she does not need to be on top. She's very happy in terms of putting women over and making stars, but would love to see her be a part of some type of program moving forward. I mean, they could have continued to put her with Harley. I think that was a great mashup between those two ladies, and they did good work. And then you got Valkyrie, who's also worked a lot with Deonna Purrazzo. I'd love to see them continue to work and be more on a main event scene, or not even a main event scene, but more featured. I know they're on Collision a lot, but let's get some of these gals on Dynamite. And then, of course, you have Thunder Rosa. It's fine. She's featured. And then Willow has obviously been a part of the ongoing feud with Cope at Edge. I think she popped up again last week as well to close out that match. So I just think there's a lot of meat on the bone here with the ladies division. And there's even a lot, I mean, they just have a really stacked roster. I guess it's tough. I mean, you really got, now that Rampage is kind of, finally obviously shut down and for good reason, you really have the two shows and you have a stacked roster. So if they're not on those two shows and they're not in Ring of Honor, they're kind of on the shelf. So I know there's a lot of guys probably feeling, the very same way on their end, that they could probably be featured a little bit more. But we'll see. Hopefully they do something with some of those gals, and then we'll see where that lands. But yeah, that was the week in wrestling. Again, I mentioned we have Collision tonight. I think we even have Collision tomorrow night after basketball again. They've got it split up into 2 nights. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about, 2 different, one confirmed for sure 3-way match with Roman, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk for WrestleMania. And then the impending one with Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on 2 3-way matches to highlight the pay-per-view. And, let me know your thoughts on the programming overall. Are you skipping some of these matches like I am, or are you watching everything religiously? Maybe it's just me, and in particular with WWE, I don't have a firm attachment to a lot of the roster. I've mentioned that before. So I will tune out on some of these matches, and nothing really, there's a lot that kind of that doesn't pique my interest sometimes. So either way, I hope you guys have a great week and hope to hear from you. Again, catch us on YouTube, Wrestling with Emotions, and we're also on Twitter. You'll see this tweeted out as soon as I pop this up, and let me know, how you're enjoying the show so far. But everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Out in the ring where we throw down, heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat, emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world emotions crash. Tangled up in thoughts we spin, in the chaos we begin. Finding strength that's deep inside, facing fears we cannot hide. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world emotions crash. Every grapple, every hold tells a story to be told. Raw and real and full of fire, pushing through the darkest mire. Wrestling with with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world emotions crash.